this is where I want to start talking about the message that this is a perfect segue to the message that we give to other women. So we talked about this hierarchy within women, not hierarchy meaning men against women. That's not the hierarchy I'm talking about. I'm talking about the hierarchy that we have with ourselves as women, as a group. Okay. And we teach each other how to be, and we teach each other as women what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And what we say about ourselves to other women tells them what's acceptable for themselves. And what I mean by that is, for instance, if I'm a mom and I'm constantly having conversations with other women, or even around my daughters, I don't have girls, but I have nieces. So I'm going to say around my nieces, right? About how I hate my belly that has loose skin or a pooch from having babies. The message that I'm sending to those girls and to those other women is that it is not acceptable to have loose skin and a pooch from having babies. Because I'm constantly telling others and myself and talking about it with other women, with daughters, about how unacceptable that is and how I need to get rid of it. And then I go on all the things to try to get rid of it, or to try to camouflage it, to try to cover it up. And that is sending a message to my peers, to my daughters, to my nieces, that my body is not okay, and neither is yours. If this happens to you, it's not okay. And that has got to be reframed. We've got to change that message. We have got to, I mean, there's a whole big movement about self-love and love yourself and all that, which I am in. I'm in. But I also want to make sure that we are actually loving ourselves, that we're not just telling ourselves that we love ourselves and then letting ourselves go, because we love ourselves and we can just eat the popcorn and the Cheez-Its because we love ourselves. No, if we truly love ourselves, then we take care of ourselves and we put nice things on our bodies. We do nice things to our bodies. We drink lots of water and we move our bodies, and we care about how flexible we are, and we care about, going to the eye doctor so that we can see. Like, those are the things that we do when we care about ourselves. And when we have loose skin and a pooch, we're kind to ourselves. Maybe we eat salad to lessen the pooch because that's good for our health, but not our framing and our words need to be around being healthy, not around having children gave me an indesirable body. Because I think those are two messages that are different from each other.
I think the core of that message, I've been super lucky that I haven't fallen into this piece of motherhood, but the idea that children have ruined my life. They've ruined my body. Mm-hmm. So part of that, like, frustration with your body is your child has ruined your body. But a healthier message, even if you don't, like, I know some people, they don't love their stretch marks. I'm actually one of the women that I'm proud of my stretch marks because I see it as it's my battle scars. Mm-hmm. And I think because I've hung around so many women who have not successfully had healthy babies, like they're, the success of having that miracle hasn't happened for them in the way that we think. And so I think sometimes we find ourselves in entitlement. Like, every woman gets to have babies. It's just part of, even it's something that we must bear. Mm-hmm. The miracle of having babies is something that we must bear. So even if you can't get to the point where you love your scars, where you're like grateful for them, working toward that way of, like, if you're, because it's part of that thought, like, what thought would I like to have? A thought to replace it would be, well, that's my battle scar. Mm-hmm. At least I can be grateful to my body that it did it, or like amazed at my body. Mm-hmm. You're a freaking human. Mm-hmm. You had a human inside of your belly and mm-hmm. you didn't explode or break. I swear I always swore I was going to be the first lady to have a spontaneous C-section because I'm so freaking big. I have big babies, right? And just the fact that I could do that, that's superhuman power. That's amazing. So just replacing those thoughts, but like just being aware of all the basis of those thoughts is this child ruined my something. Ruined it. Came in and like wasn't supposed to be a ruined it. Instead of that's the design. That's amazing. Whether or not you want to call it beautiful, you know, because again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but at least fit something else that you can do, gratitude or amaze or something. Because again, when you start from something that you do have, then you can build towards something that you want.
Yes.
But I like that.
Yeah. And I think this whole conversation about being a high value woman is really getting intentional and clear and focused and aware of what our woman body does for us and how amazing and wonderful it is in all of the ways. And we reframe our whole language and everything we say around that and how blessed we are to be women and what women's bodies do. Now, my woman's body doesn't do having babies very well. It didn't do it for a really long time. I had 10 years of infertility and losing babies and all the things. So if you're one of those out there that's like, yeah, well, I don't have kids because my body doesn't do that. Like, I'm there with you, sister. My body didn't do it very well either. It was a really big struggle for me. That was one of the trials of having a human body for me, was that my female organs that regenerate babies didn't work very well. I had to jump through lots of hoops and do lots of things to get my kids here. And so I get it, right? But there are so many other things that our bodies do as women that are just magic. They're just magical. And in the business world where I'm building my business, a lot of people will say, well, if I didn't have kids, I'd be able to build my business. Or if I didn't have kids, I'd be able to, do that event. Or if I didn't have kids, I'd be able to fill in the blank, right? That's something that we hear a lot. And it's always kind of not felt good in my body, but I just didn't really know why until I really started to think about it. I really asked myself. And now I say, if I didn't want to be a mom, then maybe I would be able to be farther along in my business. If I didn't want to be a mom, then maybe I would be able to make that event happen. Because I don't ever want my kids to walk in on a conversation with it starting if I didn't have kids. Because I never want to send the message to them that they aren't wanted, because I worked dang hard to get them here. We went through a lot of stuff. And those of you who know me know my story. And I don't ever want any of my kids to feel like they weren't wanted, because there were years of tears trying to get my kids here. I want to be a mom. And then everything else comes second. So I want them to hear, if I didn't want to be a mom, then I would do XYZ. But I want to be a mom, so I'm not. Right? So
some of that messaging also is the idea that, again, we have that male and female hierarchy. That messaging is saying that the male hierarchy is more valuable than the female hierarchy, because that's what men do. Men go to work and men have big events, right? Like they just go for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours away from their home and do their magic. And we keep saying, if really what we're saying is, if I wasn't a woman, then I could do it the way men do it. But as women, we get to figure out how to do it the way women do it. Like,
and still be just as awesome.
I have kids. I'm sure you can probably hear my kids. I have children and I'm still doing stuff. So it looks differently, but is the deep messaging, like maybe that's something to call out, is that deep messaging that you have? Do you have that deep messaging that men are better than women?
Yeah,
and then,
because
like really, maybe those are some thoughts you have to work through. And yeah, it is like, sometimes I do get very envious of my husband that he can just be like, I have this dream, bye.
Mhm.
He never has to worry about what's going to happen with his kids because he's married somebody that, like, he's married the best babysitter, right? Like, I'm not a babysitter, I'm the mom, but like, I have to find a babysitter when I want to do stuff.
Mhm.
He doesn't. He
Mhm.
picked the person on the planet who is going to care about them and
Mm.
sacrifice everything for them. He never has to worry for 1 second, what do I do with my kids? Whereas for me, that's my number one,
Mhm.
right? Like, it's, what do I do with my
Mhm.
kids?
Mhm.
But you just figure it out because that children, that nurturing, that like blessing the next generation, like that is womanhood. That's the
Mhm.
female hierarchy. That's
Mhm.
how we are useful to everything. That's where all of our like gifts shine. So
Mhm.
messaging around that is really important because if you ever start to, again, you can't cross over. Once you
Mhm.
start to cross over, that's when we get like, because you can't. You
Mhm.
cannot. So you're just beating yourself against a brick wall. So if your messaging is telling you in any kind of a way, you have to do it the man way, then of course you're going to be frustrated.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I think that, like, I don't ever wonder how I'm going to get money to pay groceries, ever. I never think that, but I guarantee you that that is the first thing that on my husband's mind when he pops his eyes open in the morning is I've got to make sure that we have money to run this house, to run this family, you know? And I'm so grateful that he has taken on his divine role to take care of our family. I have no problem taking on my divine role to raise our children. And I think that open communication is where we have to start of what our roles are. And then we have to take responsibility for our roles that are given by God. And they're not roles I'm giving you, Sherry Brazier. They are roles that we've been given by God, right? And they're wonderful, both of them. The last few years that my husband and I have, I don't know, our relationship has just gone to the next level than the last couple of years because we've done this work. Like, I celebrate him as a man and he celebrates me as a woman, and it gives me goosebumps. It creates the most synergistically powerful relationship between a husband and a wife when we can celebrate each other for our God-given roles. It is magical and it's hard. And I'm not going to say it was easy because it was hard. It came with a lot of hard things first, right? But because we're committed to each other and to our family and to our beliefs and all of that, we did some hard stuff to get to where we are. And we're still doing hard stuff. We're still, creating that.